In this video, I'm going to share a few of my favourite design thinking and user experience books that have had the biggest impact on me from a process and philosophy perspective. The first on the list is Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug, or Krug, I'm not sure which. You may have heard of this one already, as it's on many design thinking must-read book lists, and for good reason. It's been around for almost 20 years and is still as relevant today as it was back then. Don't Make Me Think was one of the first books I picked up as an aspiring UX designer. It's a great overview of general usability practices that you should consider when you're designing. The reason this book still holds up today is that it contains the foundational truths of how users interact with products and services. The author covers a range of best practices which are easy to digest and in a really approachable writing style. It's not like some of those really heavy design theory books out there. It's pretty slim. The book covers a wide range of topics, from things like how many clicks is too many to how users scan pages rather than reading them in full, how users like to make mindless choices. In fact, the author, Steve Krug, says, "It doesn't matter how many times I have to click, as long as each click is a mindless, unambiguous choice." He also covers things like the way content should be written. Don't use any more words than necessary. He looks at how to design navigation, how to conduct user testing with no budget, how to lay out a page for general usability, how to deal with design critics, and loads more. Because the book's so short, it'll probably only take you a few hours to read. You could probably get through it in an afternoon or an evening. But don't let that fool you. Don't Make Me Think is such a great book. The principles covered in it are timeless. Next up is The Design of Everyday Things by Don Norman. The author, Don Norman, is often referred to as the godfather of UX design. He is also the first person to have user experience as a job title when he was working at Apple. The book sets out to solve the mystery as to why the things we use in our day-to-day lives can often be so confusing and frustrating to use. There are some very funny real-world examples that Don Norman shares in this book. These range from a stovetop, where he couldn't figure out which button turned on which burner, to a water tap that required you stand on a pedal stud and then turn a tap to change the temperature. Don't know how that works. There are many more examples in this book highlighting the importance of a good balance between usability and aesthetic appeal. What's really great about this book is that everything he does, he approaches through the eyes of the user. This constantly highlights the importance of the user's experience and their emotional response. When you get into this mindset yourself, the products and services you create will actually be effective and satisfying. The third book on the list is Sprint by Jake Knapp. This book has probably had the biggest impact on me from the way I work and my design process. The core concept of the book is a 5-day process where you can solve complex problems and test new ideas. The design sprint process outlined in this book has been used successfully in both large and small organizations to effectively launch new products and services. The idea is that you run a workshop every day for 5 days from Monday to Friday. The first day, Monday, is about mapping out the problem and understanding it as deeply as you can. You'll also be choosing a focus for the rest of the week. Tuesday, the second day, is about brainstorming. It's about generating as many ideas and potential solutions as possible. The third day is about making a decision on which ideas to focus on, to really refine them, turning these ideas into hypotheses that you can then start to experiment with. Thursday, the fourth day, is one of my favorites. This is where things start coming together. This is where you get to start to prototype. A prototype in this instance can be anything. It could be a paper prototype, HTML, or even a fully fledged Figma prototype. The fifth and final day is about testing. This is where you get your prototype in front of real users to gather feedback quickly. The most powerful thing about this process is the speed at which you can go from a problem to actively testing a solution in a user's hands. Just 5 days. Some of the most innovative and inspirational ideas I have ever seen have come from design sprints, and often from unexpected sources within the sprint team. I highly recommend this one. The final book on my list is Creative Confidence by Tom Kelly. Tom is the co-founder of the world-renowned design studio IDEO. If you're not sure who they are, I'd recommend a quick Google search just to see some of the amazing things they do. The book itself is about tapping into your creative potential. You've probably got loads of friends and colleagues who say things like, "Oh, I can't draw," or "I'm not a creative at all." The book does a great job at proving why this just isn't true. Much of the book is focused on building confidence in yourself and others, and showing that creativity is a skill that can be learned and cultivated by anyone. It's full of case studies from Tom's years of experience in the design industry. There are are also practical, actionable tips on how to build your own creative confidence. Tom dives into things like how to use failure as part of your work, why experimentation is so powerful, how to build a curious mindset, the power of collaboration, and how to look at problems in new ways. I think one of the most powerful concepts to take away from this book is that creativity is not limited to the standard creative types of artists and designers, but it's open to anyone. The world is changing quickly, and without a little bit of creativity in your toolkit, you're going to get left behind. Like I said, these are only a few of the great books on design that are out there, but they're a great place to get started. I've added all of the links to these books in the description. Hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you've got any questions about these books or any other design books that you're curious about, let me know. Cheers.